Hi, my name is Michelle and I'm here today to share with you how to go about bottling fruit using the Fowler's Vacola system. I'm here at the Research Centre in Penguin and we do lots of sustainability education and wellbeing things here, and I would love to share this with you today. So what I'll do is I'm going to start with the basics and quickly show you how to get it all happening, but then I'll give you a bit more detail about different options later in the video. So first thing, you need fruit. Today I'm going to be bottling some apples and pears and nashi and some peaches from my next door neighbour. These are all in season at the moment here. I'm in northwest Tasmania and it's the 30th of March 2020. So it's a good time to be bottling produce for the winter because we're all going to be staying at home for quite some time. So surplus fruit you need. You also need some of the bottles, rings, lids and clips that go with this system. So I've got mine soaking in some warm soapy water here. So this is one type of Fowler's bottle. I'll give it another clean. I want everything to be really clean. And a rinse. What I've got here is I've got some rings that have been soaking in warm water for 15 minutes. So that's the first thing you need to do when you're about to bottle, is soak them for a while. I'll get one of those out. And so the way the system works is the rubber ring sits in this little groove around the top. And so you've got to get it in there. That's the first thing to do. And this is the trickiest part, actually. Looks easy when you've done it lots. But I've done that so that now I've got a smooth surface around there. It's quite easy to get twists and things in there, so make sure you check it afterwards. I want to make sure my bottles, especially if they're old or secondhand, don't have any chips or cracks here, because this is our sealing surface here on the top. I need some lids. So here's the lid that fits on top, and then clips. And you'll see what I do with these in a minute. These are to hold the lid on as we cook it, just form the vacuum seal. All right, let's get straight into it. So I've said I've got those 4 fruits here. I'll start with peaches. This is quite a late peach, end of March. Well, I've got a bowl of water. And what I do with peaches is I just cut them around the middle. This is a free stone, so they're nice and easy to get off. If you've got a clean stone, you might just need to cut the fruit off the stone. Usually just slice the other half with the stone in half. You can twist it off, get the stone out, and you're good to go. So here are some more that I prepared earlier, and I'm just going to pack them in the bottle. This bit is a little bit like a jigsaw, because you want to pack in as much fruit as you can. Now the Fowler's people sell a packing stick, but you might find that you can use a butter knife, or you might have a thin wooden implement you can use. I like these jars with the wide mouth. These are number 4 with a 4-inch lid and mouth, which means I can fit my hand in it. Makes it a bit easier. Nice clean hands, of course. Everybody's doing good hand washing at the moment, which is good practice all times for food handling. And it's good practice every year, in flu season especially. But of course, at the moment it's essential with the nasty flus that are going around. So packing the fruit in like that, and leave about 1 centimetre at the top. So you don't want your fruit bulging out, you want it a bit below the surface. And I'm getting some hot water from the kettle. Now, it's not always essential to have boiling water. I'll talk about that later, different ways to do with the water. So I'm going to put my water all the way to the top. On goes the lid, and on goes the clips. Instructions say 1 clip is enough, but particularly with the wider mouth ones, it can be easy to get your lid a bit skew-if. So 2 clips and a cross shape can be a good thing to do. So that looks nice and straight. I don't have any ring sitting out. So it's ready to go. It's ready to go in my cooker. I better tell you about the cooker. So this is a simple natural preserving kit from Fowler's. The lid comes off. So it's just a plastic kit, and you'll see inside here there's this metal plate, and underneath the metal plate is an element. So it's very much like an urn, really. It's got a tap on the side so you can drain up the hot water when you're finished. Instructions say to sit this cooker not on a metal surface because you might lose some of the heat at the bottom, so I've got it sitting on a wooden board, you can see, which is on top of another surface, so that should be just fine. That's peaches done. It's great that we've got all these different fruits available to be able to go. So I'm going to do pears now. So I've got some pears here, get another bowl. The interesting thing about pears is they ripen from the inside out. So it might feel still a bit firm sometimes on the outside, and the inside is quite ripe. Or you might find that they start to go a bit rotten. So I pop my ring on, and I'm checking the seal. That's nice and flat. Now I do often peel my pears, but I did it today because I didn't bring my favourite peeler. And it doesn't matter at all. I peel them because we've got salicylate intolerances in our household. And so having the skin off is a good thing. But quite fine to bottle your fruit with the skin on as well. Now, important thing about pears, this is where the jigsaw comes in. You've got to find bits that fit or cut them to fit. So you need to know when it comes to bottling fruit that there are some fruits that need some extra acid in them, and pears is one of them. So here's my little note about what needs acid. So what I've done is when I cut these pears, I put a teaspoon of citric acid in the bowl with the water. For one reason was to stop them from browning, but I also need to add acid to pears to make sure that particular kind of bacteria doesn't live in there, and I'll speak a bit more about that later. I do have people come to my workshops saying, how do I do bottling without hurting my family, without making anyone sick? So that's full. I'm ready for the hot water, but I need to add acid to this. So citric acid, I bought this, it's a kilo, you might not want that much. I bought that through bio distributors. We're based here in the Northwest. I want 1/8 of a teaspoon of citric acid in here, tiny bit. You can buy it at a whole food store, which I would encourage you to do to support your local businesses. You can also buy citric acid in the supermarkets, usually with the baking powders and those sorts of things. And it tastes just like lemon. You put a tiny pinch in water and you think you'd be drinking lemon juice. So since I put the citric acid on top and the boiling water on top, there's no need to dissolve it, it did it. So that's that one done. Clips on. Now, easy mistake to make, clip hasn't gone on all the way. It needs to go all the way down. All right, looks nice and flat. Into the cooker. Roll number 4. I'm going to put some nashi in this one. Now, nashi are a type of pear, so they need acid as well. I might show you what I'm doing here. See if I can do that without spilling it. I find it easiest to hook the side closest to me on. And then with lots of pressure on all the fingers involved, gently hook that over. Got a tiny twist here, there it goes. It's nice and flat now. Checking that seal. So nashi are a kind of pear, so they need acid. So same with the nashi, what I did earlier is I put a little bit of citric acid in this water, and then I just got them and I chopped them into the water. that. Good chance to do, we want everything to be really clean. So we want a bit of quality control several times over if you can. So when you chop it, is a chance to look and see if there's any bad bits or any bugs, any dirt. And when you're putting it in the bottle, it's another chance to look it over, and if anything needs chopping off, you can chop it off. Jigsaw as we go. So I love being able to bottle and then pull out a jar of something awesome like this in the winter and eat it as is, or turn it into a crumble, or bake it in a pie. Lots of things you could do. I tend to only bottle when I've got a free surplus from my own backyard trees, or the trees here at the Reseed Centre, or for friends and neighbours. These lovely peaches came from my neighbour. And we've got a neighbour with plums who came down to make sure I had got some before it rained, which was lovely. And yes, here they are. These are the plums. Larry's plums. Thank you very much, Larry. I tend not to buy things from the shop to bottle, since lots of things are available in the shops year round anyway, but you can if that's your thing. Ask around, you might find some people with a tree who would love you to come and help preserve that fruit. So a tiny bit of citric acid on that one, and some more hot water. Back to the bin. And some clips. So I talk a bit later about there's a couple of different kinds of lids you can get. My idea is to have ones that will last a long time and you can reuse as much as possible. There we go, fourth jar. Let's go in the last one. Apples. So this is a bullet. You could just put apples in, as I have done with the others. I would drop them into a bowl with a bit of citric acid or a bit of lemon acid of some sort to stop the browning while you're doing your chopping. But what you find when you've got fruits that have a bit of air in them, and apples seem to be like that, is that you'll end up with a bit of an air gap at the top once you've done your cooking, because the air comes out of the fruit and ends up in here, which doesn't really matter. But what you can do, tomatoes are the same in fact, is you can cook it down a little bit to get rid of some of that air and then put it in the jar. So I've just stewed, again, I just chopped apples. Whoops, I'm pouring it out at you. I chopped some apples. How about I pour that in there? They look lovely. These kinds of apples from the backyard here. I just very lightly stewed. So I'm getting checked. So I'm going to put the very lightly cooked apples in here. And I've chopped up some rhubarb from my garden. I'll put that in now. So I'm mostly doing single fruits here, but you can, of course, you can layer it up. You can make a jar full of fruit salad. Which is pretty much what this is going to be. So that's some raw rhubarb. It will be cooking in the cooker, so I'm not worried about putting that in raw. I think this will look lovely. Again, you can peel your fruit if you would prefer to have it that way. It's not necessary. The other thing that's not necessary that has put some people off in the past is that often in the past people would use a sugar syrup, and you can, if you want to, bottle with a sugar syrup, but it's not necessary. You can use plain water, as I am today. Got a few blackberries here I picked this morning across the road. I love blackberries. It's another beautiful abundance at the moment. So you can use plain water. The sugar doesn't add anything to the preserving process. It's merely about flavour. So I quite like the idea that if my nashis, for example, they're not very strongly flavoured, if they aren't sweet enough, when I open it up at the end, I can add some sweetener. I don't have to put sugar in as part of the process now. So I'm topping up with boiling water. Actually, I'm going to change my mind there. I'll take a little bit out. So have we got any, sometimes you get some air bubbles. If there are any really significantly big air bubbles, just get a skewer or a chopstick or something, some clean, long, pointy thing. Probably a knife will do the job, really. And you can just stick it down the side just to release those air bubbles. Doesn't really matter if there are some, but you'll end up with more juice if you get them out. So, all right. I would like to, I'm going to squeeze a bit of lemon in there. I don't have to because they're apples. And I've put in some acid things, including the blackberries and the rhubarb. But I think this would be nice with a bit of lemon juice. So I'm going to squeeze a bit of lemon on top. Okay, top it up to the top. Get the lid. Nice little clips. In it goes. So now I've got my 4 Liza number 31 bottles I've got in there. I'll show you those in a sec. 4 is all I can fit in this size cooker. So I'm going to cover them with water. I'm going to get another bucket of water because I'm filling it up to here. So the bottles are completely submerged. Then I'll put the lid on, plug it in, switch it on, set my timer for an hour. And I'll come back to talk to you once that's all going. Okay, so this is starting to get warm. You might be able to hear it. It's got water up to here. And I've plugged it in, turned it on. It's going to go for an hour total. The instructions say don't let it boil for more than 5 minutes. So towards the end, we're going to listen carefully to it. And if it sounds like it's boiling, make sure it doesn't go too long. Because what's happening in here is, obviously it's getting hot. We've created that seal on the jars so that everything inside gets hot and it expands. And then when it's finished, we fairly rapidly cool them by draining off all the water, taking the bottles out, and they rapidly cool and you form a vacuum seal. So what happens, here's some I prepared earlier. So these are ones I did last night. These are nashi. They came out of the water, cooled rapidly, and then they need to sit for 18 hours with the clips on. Thereabouts. These have been about 24 because it was last night. So I'm going to take the clips off now and check the seal. And that's a complete vacuum seal. Nothing coming in or going out of that. So once I've checked all the seals, I usually just wipe them off. Sometimes they're a tiny bit sticky on the outside. And then get some sticky labels and label what they are and the date so that we know what's on the shelf. Lots of things to tell you. So I might go through what's up here. So this here are some pears that we did this year. They're peeled pears, those ones. They'll have a little bit of acid in them. Here I've got the plums from my neighbour up the road. They've just been sliced off the stones. This is an amazing peach that grows just out this window actually. It's a clingstone yellow flesh peach, and I'm guessing it's the variety that they put in cans because it's just so yummy bottled. Got some stewed apples from last year, about this time last year. I've got some, the label says it's got plums with pips and blackberries. So if I've got super ripe plums and I'm in a hurry, I just mush the plums in and top it up with a bit of water and bottle it. So you need to be careful to get the pips out when you open it up, but that makes it nice and quick. You can do the same with tomatoes. If you've got nice ripe tomatoes, just mush them in, top it up with water and a bit of acid, because you need to add acid to tomatoes. You will get a bit of air if they're raw, but it doesn't really matter. I'll come back to the acid in a sec. More plums, different kind of peaches. These are a freestone peach. More peaches, and this one is a different kind of peach again, a friend's peaches with blackberries. So when someone says, we've got heaps of pears, we've got heaps of peaches, you can say, yes, I'd like some of those. If you would like a copy of this one-page instructions that I've put together, you are welcome to go and look for it on the RESEED website. RESEED stands for Renewable Energy, Sustainability, Education and enterprise development, and we're here in Penguin in the northwest of Tasmania. And so the address is reseed.net.au. That's RESEED. While you're there, you may as well sign up for the newsletter, especially if you live locally, and find out what goes on here. We're trying to do lots of things by Zoom at the moment, but when life resumes some normality, we'll be back to having groups and activities and courses here, which is great. So, more things to tell you. Let's talk about acid now, because as I mentioned, some people will come to my workshops and say, how do I keep myself safe and not kill my family? Good question. One of the things that we worry about is botulism. So there's a bacteria called Clostridium botulinum that lives in the soil. And it has been known in the past, when it can go into preserved foods like this and it's not treated properly in a way that kills it, it can release a toxin which can be deadly or make you very sick. And you can't smell it, you can't taste it, and you can't see it. So it's a good thing to be afraid of. So it lives in the dirt. So there's one of the things that you can do is, they always suggest using clean fruit that you've picked off the tree rather than stuff that's fallen off the ground. I hate wasting food. So if we're going to use stuff off the ground, then we've got to make sure it's super clean. Get all the dirt off. Maybe that's involving peeling it, or just do kind of several layers of washing. Those peaches, for example, were off the ground. So I put them in some water first, gave them a really good scrub, and then I cut them into another bowl of water and I double checked them as well before they went into the jar. So Clostridium botulinum doesn't like acid either, which is why you need to add the acid when the fruit itself is not acid enough. So figs, pears, tomatoes, nashis need acid. So you saw me using citric acid, 1/8 of a teaspoon of citric acid. You can also use ascorbic acid, vitamin C, or you can use a tablespoon of lemon juice, as you saw me do with the apples. Or you could use vinegar, if like with tomatoes, that would be quite fine. While we're talking acid, when it comes to bottling vegetables, you need a lot more acid than the amounts I just spoke about. So you want about half vinegar, half water. So you might make up a bottle that's got, you know, slices of zucchini and slices of capsicum and slices of beans, garlic, herbs, half vinegar, half water, your favourite flavour of vinegar, and then you can put it in the cooker, same as this, and then you've got something very yummy that might go with cheese or on a platter later. So you don't need acid for apricots, berries, cherries, nectarines, peaches, plums, quince, rhubarb. So that's about acid. Keep yourself safe. What else? I've said follow the instructions about heat and timing. So I'm following the instructions that tell me to cook this for 1 hour because you can kill the botulism bacteria with enough heat and enough time. So the instructions that have come with your kit are a good place to start. If you're still a bit nervous and a bit worried, then once you've opened your bottle off the shelf and you want to use it, bring it to a place where it's really hot. So that kind of 10 minutes of rapid boiling. So that might be simple for a tomato sort of sauce, or something equivalent to that. So baking in the oven might work. Just pause and come back in a sec. So I wanted to talk about different size bottles. So let's put that one away. So you saw me filling bottles like this. This is a number 31 jar. You probably can't read it, but down here it says Fowler's number 31. So it's written in the glass, I suppose. This is sort of an older version. The newer number 31s are just a bit broader, which is lovely because you can fit more in, but still they have exactly the same 4-inch top. So these are number 4. These are size 4 jars. And so the lids that come with them say 4-inch here. And when you're buying the rings, you'll be buying size 4 rings. There's some excellent instructions on the back of these, by the way. I got these locally in Alderson at our local hardware shop. The big box stores didn't have them. So that's great, support your local. These are other number 4, size 4 jars, I should say. So this is a number 36. We've got lots of fruit. And this is a number 65 if you've got lots and lots of fruit. So what you need to know is there's also size 3. There's also number, I should stop saying that. Number 3, 3-inch lid jars. So you can see that's smaller. Same. So this is a number 20. Great if you've just got a little bit of fruit or a little bit of sauce or something that you want to do. This is a number 27. You'll find these fairly readily available. I don't like them as much as the 4-inch because I can't fit my hand in. So it's a little bit harder to pack if you're just using chunks of fruit. Fine if you've got a sauce or tomatoes or something that's squishy. Easy done. So if you've got 3-inch jars, you need 3-inch lids, and you need 3-inch rings and 3-inch clips. In theory, that goes without saying, but you might just get a whole box of things from a garage, so they'll not know what you've got. You might have a mixture of both. So there are a couple of kinds of lids you can get as well. You might see the difference in colour between these. This is a stainless steel one, obviously designed to be reused. This one is not stainless steel, and in theory, they're single use. I hate single use stuff. You can keep reusing them while they're not scratched, but they will start to rust. And in fact, this one looks like it's starting to rust a tiny bit in there already. So in theory, I should throw that away. So if you're getting them secondhand or getting them for free, don't be fussed about getting these ones. But if you're going to buy them, I suggest you buy the stainless steel ones because you can reuse them over and over again forever if you treat them well. Bottles, rings, and lids. Now, when it comes to rings, I've got some of these. The rings are supposed to be single use as well. Don't use perished rings, it says. There you go. So you want to keep it out of light and heat. Again, I don't really want to throw things away. If you're going to reuse your rings, you've got to soak them in water again and check them really thoroughly that they don't have any scratches and that they've got that squarish sort of shape still, because they won't form a good seal if they don't. I ran out of rings and I had to reuse some last week, and I had some failures with my bottles. So when I got to this stage and I checked the lid just came off in my hand. So there clearly wasn't a vacuum seal there, so something went wrong with it, and I suspect it was the ring I was reusing. Nothing was wasted because we just ate that fruit straight away, but it wasn't a candidate for going on the shelf and staying for the winter. So use new rings wherever you can, or ones that are still in really, really good condition. That's ideal. What else should I tell you? Lids, different types of cookers. So you might be lucky, as I was, to get something like this. I'll move it back. So this is quite similar in setup to the other one, in that it has an element at the bottom. It's got a metal plate that your jars sit on, but clearly it's a lot bigger. I can fit 8 of these number 31 jars in at one time. You can see on the side here it's got a water bath, so that connects to the inside, and the thermometer sits in there to tell me what the temperature is of the water. Power cord, I plug it in and turn it on. It's got 2 switches. It's got a low and a high switch. The instructions that I have written are for this kind of cooker, if you want to go to the Reseed website and get them. So you want to bring the temperature of the bottles up to about 92 degrees Celsius over 45 minutes and hold them there for about 45 minutes. And same as the other, reasonably quickly take them out and cool them quickly so that that vacuum seal can form. So I'm going to pause you and come back again in a minute. Righty-ho. So I thought I'd talk to you about what can go wrong. What could possibly go wrong? So easy. So I mentioned how I've had a couple of failures where the seal hasn't worked. And so the day after, when I'm taking off the clips and checking the seal, the lid just came off. So ideally you're going to notice it then, and you can either just eat the fruit straight up, you can reprocess it with a new lid. And that's about all. There was one occasion when obviously that didn't get noticed at the start, or it wasn't a big problem when we first took it out of the cooker, and it sat on the shelf for a while, a few months. And when I went to use it, the lid came off in my hand. And when I looked in, you could see that the food was already mouldy. Chuck it out. But as long as the seal is here, vacuum seal, nothing's getting in, nothing's getting out. So these can stay on your shelf for a couple of years. I like to use mine within 2 years. They could probably stay longer. that it's probably better for you to use it within the 2 years. Whilst people like the idea of having beautiful shelves in your lounge room with lots of gorgeous fruit in it, they need to be in a cool, dark place to keep the longest. So sorry about that. You might just have to have it under a curtain, and you can open the curtain or open the cupboard doors and show your friends to impress them when they come over to visit. Another thing that can happen, especially if you've got older reused bottles, because some of these have been around for a goodly while, is they can crack. So notice this one. Now the seal is fine and it doesn't look like anything's getting in or getting out, but I looked closely and there was a crack in the jar. I don't think it goes all the way through, but I don't feel like trusting it for a long time. So I thought I'd use this one to show you how to open the bottle. Let's talk about cracked bottles for a minute. Like any kind of, this is pretty thick glass, but like any kind of jar, if you put a cold jar in very hot water, it will crack and break. I did that once in trying to reuse my cooking water to do a second batch, and the whole bottom of the jar fell out. Obviously, if they get bumped around, they can crack and break after a time too. So when it comes to opening bottles, there you can buy a fancy bottle opener. It costs about 12, 13 that sort of dollars, but a butter knife works very nicely. What we want to do is we want to release the seal. So I'm going to try and get the knife between the lid and the ring and just prise it, just to get a bit of air in there. I don't want to say prise actually, because I don't want to bend this, because I'm going to reuse this lid. So I'm going to push it in there, do a little bit of outward pressure. Don't get nothing from the first spot, I'll just move to another spot. Hear that? So we've broken the seal. Take the lid and the ring off. Give it a taste. Sorry, you're not here to taste this. I'm going to taste the juice actually, because that's probably yummy. It's astonishing how sweet that juice is, knowing that it was only water that went in there. It's not quite as strong as pear juice, but probably half strength, which is one of the reasons I love using really ripe fruit and just plain water, because it comes out really sweet. You don't need sugar. So I would normally pop that back in the fridge, probably with the lid and the clip on, just to hold it in there. That won't be completely sealed, so it would spill if we knocked it over, but we won't knock it over. That's what I need to tell you. Read your instruction book. So if your cooker comes with a book, do read it. There's great recipes in there and safety instructions as well. Make sure you do that. And we'll just wait for the cooker to finish. Meanwhile, you can go and have a look at reseed.net.au if you want to sign up for the newsletter, or have a look for these instructions on there. We'd love to have your feedback. And if you're a local person and you'd like to give something back, you're welcome to come to one of our working bees when we're allowed to gather together again to help keep this place great. So talk to you again when the cooker's finished. Okay, you can probably hear and see that this is boiling now, and we're very close to the end of our hour, and it's been boiling just for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to switch it off, and we will drain the water so that we can get the bottles out. I'm finding it handy to have a stainless steel bucket. Oh, there's my hour timer. Hour is definitely up. So because we've got this tap, they suggest that you do it near a sink. So then you can just let the boiling water into the sink down the drain. Right now I'm putting the boiling water in this stainless steel bucket very carefully so I don't burn myself. And I'm actually putting it on the bits of apple that have got some bugs in it, because I don't want to spread puddling moth around the place. So we'll kill them before we put them in the compost. So, and I'll just strain enough so that we can get to the tops of the jars. And if it's about there now, down. If you feel comfortable doing this and safe doing this, then if you've got a bucket full of boiling water, it's a great way to treat your weeds in the cracks in your path as well. Can be used for a bucket full of boiling water. So that's enough for me to get to the bottles. You could, of course, drain it completely before you get the bottles out. Now, there are special tongs available that you can use for this part. And the point of the tongs, I don't have any, as you can see, but the point of the tongs is that you want to grab the jar and not the lid, because we've just created that great vacuum seal. You don't want to ruin it now. So carefully grabbing around the jar and not pulling up on the lid. So there's our pears and our nashis looking nice. And peaches, I should bring them closer. Nashis, pears, peaches, and how do they have it? Beautiful, look at that. Apples and rhubarb and blackberries. So I'll leave them to cool for 18 hours and then take the clips off, check the seals, clean and label, pop them on the shelf for up to 2 years. Enjoy. If you like this, let us know. Do sign up to the Reseed email newsletter, especially if you live locally and you want to find out what goes on here. And you can find a copy of that basic recipe on the website reseed.net.au. Happy bottling. Bye for now.